Kia ora koutou, no mai haere mai, and welcome to the Frog Recruitment Talent Webinar, taking the next step of your career in Auckland. So we're thrilled to be able to bring this to you today. We've got some great things lined up, so we'll start off going through the Auckland market update. Shavnil Narayan will take us through how to market yourself and showcase your transferable skills. Then we'll go on to Scott Bannister, writing your resume and cover letters in 2023, and how to utilise recruitment agencies to grow your career with Manish Ravikumar. And we'll end off with an interactive Q&A session with our team of recruitment experts. Before we jump in, it sounds like there's a bit of an echo. So we'll see if we can sort that out. But let's start off the talent webinar by taking a look at what's been happening in the Auckland market. Okay, so first off, let's talk about, very exciting, let's talk about unemployment rates. Now, this won't come as a surprise. The labour market in New Zealand remains very tight, and with only a slight increase in the unemployment rate over the last year. So in the year ending June 2023, so the most up-to-date stats that we have, the unemployment rate averaged 3.4%, and it's really maintained that same level as the preceding year up until March this year. So the unemployment rate has inched up marginally due to a more challenging economic outlook, which you'll all be aware of. So rising from its previous low of 3.2%. Things like increased net migration is leading to a growing pool of job seekers, elevated interest rates, inflation, all of these things leading to a bit of a slowdown in economic growth. And this is expected to contribute to a further increase in the unemployment rate in the coming year. But if we take a look specifically at the Auckland market, we can see that the unemployment rate trends closely follow the trends for all of Aotearoa. Now, I guess this isn't really surprising since just over a third of New Zealand's population live in Tamaki Makaurau. So the annual average unemployment rate in Auckland was 3.5% in the year up to June this year, and that was up from 3.3%, so a record low there in the previous 12 months. I guess the good news is that we are still a really long way from the 10-year peak of 6.2%, which was experienced in March 2014. Now, don't worry, I'll try not to bombard you with too many stats, but so bear with me. So what does a low but rising unemployment rate mean for job seekers in Auckland? Well, a low unemployment rate means that there's greater demand for quality candidates. Now, Auckland's unemployment rate is 3.5%, which was only slightly higher than the 10-year low of 3.3 that was recorded last year. So this increased competition for candidates has meant that employees have been in a strong position to go after improved conditions such as salary increases, might be bargaining for flexible work arrangements and other benefits. So my advice is to make hay while the sun shines, although it's not particularly sunny outside here, and maybe I shouldn't jinx things and talk about the weather, particularly this year. But really, you need to be clear on what is important to you. And go into job negotiations with confidence, while retaining and attracting employees is still a major challenge for businesses. But I would say don't wait too long, as we are starting to see that the market is starting to balance out with more job seekers entering the market from overseas. and job vacancies decreasing due to economic pressure. Okay, so let's have a look specifically at the job market. So, demand for labour is softening, as shown by the decline in job advertisements. So that was down 22% from June 2022. But I guess you need to take this with a grain of salt, because of course 2022 was hardly a normal year. I'm not sure we quite remember what a normal year looks like. And we experienced, of course, massive increases in jobs as businesses attempted to rise out of the COVID lockdowns. So yes, there has been a substantial drop in vacancies through the last year, but actually the current vacancy levels are still higher than pre-pandemic levels. Are you wondering how vacancies are faring in your occupation? Well, let's take a look at some of the changes in job adverts by occupation and skills. Okay, so if we look at the largest fall in job advertising was for labourers. So that was down a whopping 32% year on year. And this decrease as well was felt most in Auckland compared with other regions. While professionals on the other end of the scale there saw the smallest decrease, so just 8% year on year. And in terms of industries, again, these will probably won't come as a surprise. So some of the most affected industries that saw the greatest drops were in hospitality, manufacturing, and IT. If you look across the regions, again, Auckland suffered the biggest decreases, so a drop of 26%, and looking across all industries and occupations. But yeah, again, this isn't really surprising, as having the biggest slice of the pie, we're also going to notice it first when we're running out of cream. So, in summary, I still think it's a relatively good time to be looking for work in Auckland, but some advice: to do some soul searching first to be clear on your job search priorities and what opportunities to target. Of course, I am wildly biased in this, but I do recommend engaging with Frog Recruitment to help navigate the job market and take advantage of those opportunities. So let's move on to our next section. We're joined now by Shavnil Narayan, who is going to explain how you can market yourself as a job seeker and showcase your transferable skills.
Thanks, Shannon. Some great insights in that segment over there. Shanil here. I'm just going to give you some tips around how to market your transferable skills. I understand in the candidate short market, it is sometimes hard for hiring managers to find the right candidates within the timely manner that they have. Sometimes it's great to showcase transferable skills that help you to stand out from the rest. Whether it's you take pride in time management or communication skills, you should be able to showcase this whether in an interview, CV, or networking as well. So how do you do this? First, you need to be able to identify these key transferable skills. It's important to look at yourself and on the consistent skills that you have used in different roles, but also think about what comes naturally to you. It becomes so that it becomes a second language. There are there some parts of the business or some skills that you bring to the business that you're always looked upon for help with, or are you a subject matters expert on this skills? Once you've identified these skills, it's always good to also be able to do some online testing, but also be able to maybe get some testimonials that shed light on these skills as well. once you have been able to sort of identify these skills, it's always good to showcase it in your resume and cover letter. Think about the key achievements that you have made with these transferable skills. Look at how you have been able to add value to the business. So you may be able to add this into your CV, just in the sort of career aspect of it. So when you're listing careers, in there you can write as achievements, and then you say these are the skills that you've used to be able to achieve this kind of goals as well. A great way to sort of have this achievement section in the careers aspect is to use the star technique, to give that examples of that transferable skills. Another way would be contacting hiring managers on LinkedIn, just as a informal introduction. So sometimes you're able to find the hiring managers for different roles that do come across, especially if you are applying on LinkedIn. Sometimes it's a good, quick 5 second message. Well, not 5 second. Do a bit of research and then message them just to say, "Hi, my name is Shavnil. Nice to meet you. I've applied for this role. Here are some of the skill sets that I can bring to this role. Are you interested in having a chat around it?" It gives a bit of an informal / formal introduction to yourself, and it puts a face to a name, and keeps you in the back of their mind when they're sifting through all the other countless applications that are coming through, as well as different cover letters as well. I do apologize. I did forget to mention a great way would be also to use a cover letter, in terms of showcasing your skills. I know we've had that idea that we're not actually, nobody looks at a cover letter, but cover letter is a great way to show what transferable skills you have and what you can bring into the job market or into that next role, just because you're able to speak a bit more about those transferable skills, and then go from there. In terms of another step would be going to networking events, gaining exposure in the market. That way, the Auckland job market, even though a third of the population is Auckland, it can be a bit of a smaller job market where you can run into any other hiring manager, or like maybe it's a dream role for yourself. You can run into the hiring manager for that at networking events. It's always good to do your research, see who you think might be at these different networking events, or even create a game plan when you are going into these events, just maybe around how you could showcase that transferable skills, and make sure that you stand out from the rest as well. Uh, and lastly, this one's for more of those technical candidates, or candidates that are in sort of like design space as well. If you've been working on a recent project or recent portfolio of different jobs that you had to do as well, create a portfolio that shows your transferable skills. It highlights sort of some of the skills that you had used in that role or in that project to be able to sort of create the designated outcome or the value to that role or that project, and what you are doing as well. And lastly, if you have been watching today, and you are looking for an opportunity in Auckland, perhaps have any further questions about anything I have talked about today, would love to hear from you. You can get in touch with myself using my contact details listed on the screen, or reach out on the Frog Recruitment website. Speak soon.
Excellent. Thanks, Shavnil. Again, if you have any questions around transferable skills for Shavnil or just in general, feel free to add them to the comments section through the webinar, and we'll be able to include that in the Q&A section at the end. So we are going now to continue our career journey and be joined by Scott Bannister, who's going to provide some hot tips on how to write your resume and cover letters in the 2023 market.
Hi, Sharon. Thanks for having me. Today, we're going to go through some do's and don'ts for writing your CVs and your cover letters. We'll start with resumes first of all. A couple of points we're going to go through, and then we'll move on to cover letters. So first of all, most importantly, is customize the CV to the job that you're applying for. If you are applying for a role that is a warehouse role, for example, you don't want your CV to reflect that you've been working in like an admin role for the last 5 or 6 years. If you have done the warehouse role previously, highlight that as the main point of the CV. Use a clean and modern formatting for your CV. For me, if the CV's easily editable by myself if I'm sending it to any clients, and for any potential customers as well, or jobs you're applying for. If it's easy to read, it's a nice clear font, it just puts that CV a little bit further up in the pecking order. Start with a summary about the jobs that you have previously done, and what your career goals are and what you bring to the table for any hiring managers. Most importantly for me is proofread your CV. We don't want any grammatical or spelling errors in there. Also get someone else to have a review of your CV, so that they might highlight some errors in there which you've maybe not seen. Prioritize relevant experience, which I think we've previously gone through anyway. So highlight what you've done, and what the outcome of the work is that you've done in there. List your education and certifications, again, specific to the work that you are applying for. If you've got an accountancy degree and you're applying for an inventory controller role, that's maybe not the right qualification that they'll be looking for that. But if you've used any systems for that role, highlight them. And also add a skills section. Again, very similar to the education sector. If you've used certain systems and processes, highlight them. Some CV don'ts for me: avoiding outdated formats, and please avoid boxes. That's a personal gripe of mine, but we won't get into that. Exclude irrelevant information. So we don't need to know really any unrelated personal details or hobbies. Use a professional email address. A hiring manager will look at the contact details and the email address. Obviously, you want that to be as professional as possible. If you're getting a email address from when you're 14, maybe you need to look at that and change that to be a bit more professional. And skip personal pronouns. So instead of I, whilst I was working at X client, whilst working at the client, my main roles were. So that's the way we want to do it. With cover letters, we want to be addressing hiring managers wherever possible. So if you know the hiring manager is David Smith, address it to Dear David Smith, to David Smith. If you don't know what the hiring manager is, if you don't know who the hiring manager is, maybe to whom it may concern. Customize the cover letter. So you may be applying for 5 or 6 different roles. What you don't want to be doing is just sending out a generic formatted cover letter. Address it to the hiring manager. Change the formatting of the cover letter so it is job specific. Tell a story about what you've done previously. So share a concise, engaging stories about the qualifications and why you'd be a good fit for the role. Show enthusiasm to the role. So if there is a certain aspect within that role that has made you want to engage in this role and maybe put forward for it, tell them why that is. And then keep it short. You don't want to be doing a 2 or 3 page cover letter, because the hiring manager most likely is going to read the first page. Anything more than that, and they're likely to not sort of go any further. What I would say we need to avoid repetition in your cover letters. We don't want to be having the same paragraph at the top of the cover letter and the bottom of the cover letter. We want to, again, keep it short. get someone to proofread your cover letter as well as your CV, and stay balanced. Focus on what you are going to bring to the company, not just what you want to get out of the company, if that makes sense. So highlight again why you applied for the role, what you can add to the role, not just I want X, Y, and Z whilst I'm working here. If you, like I say, if you are interested in any roles in Auckland, have any questions about what we've discussed today, please don't hesitate to reach out. My details are on the screen at the moment, and obviously Shavnil's and Manish's later on. Cheers, thank you.
Excellent, thank you, Scott, and well done on avoiding the temptation of talking about boxes. I think there must have been a terrible experience somewhere in your past.
Very much so.
But I think those are great tips for putting yourself in the best light as you apply for jobs, and as the job market gets tighter, that will be even more important, as will, sometimes it can be a fine line between what makes you go with one candidate over the other. So some great tips there to put your best foot forward. Okay, let's go through. So we're now joined by Manish Ravikumar to discuss how, as a job seeker, you can utilize a recruitment agency to help you find your next job, and how best to partner with them to grow your career. So let's go over to Manish.
Kia ora. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Scott, for the intro. I'm Manish from Frog Recruitment, permanent recruitment consultant specializing in sales and property. I had never used a recruitment agency in my career until about a year ago, when I applied for a role through Frog Recruitment, and I ended up getting hired by Frog Recruitment to come on as a consultant. It's definitely one of the best decisions I ever made. And here is a step-by-step process of how you can use recruitment agencies to leverage your career. The first and the most important thing, you have to choose the right agency. So you've got to look into researching what some of the reputable recruitment agencies are around you that specialize in your industry. Look for agencies which have with a very good track record of placing candidates that are quite similar to yourself in terms of career goals, in terms of the companies that you want to be working at. At Frog Recruitment, our specializations include HR, marketing, accounting, supply chain, sales, and technology, both on the temporary and permanent side. So do a bit of research and choose the best agency that will help you grow your career. Second, now you've done your research and you found the right agency. To get the most value out of your relationship with a recruiter or recruitment agency, you have to treat this relationship as a partnership. Just have very clear and open communication with the assigned recruiter. So the person who's reached out to you when you've reached out to the agency, who specializes in what you specialize in, there will be an assigned recruiter. Recruiters usually have access to roles that don't even go on any of the job boards. For me personally, when I'm taking a job brief from a client who's looking for staff, halfway through the job brief, I already have a couple of candidates in my mind that have reached out to me maybe in the next last 2-3 weeks. So just make sure your recruiter remembers you. Just make sure you check in with them once every couple of weeks or so. The next one is very standard. Make sure you bring all the value that you can bring to a workplace and put it on a very detailed resume. Take some of Scott's tips to make a very well-crafted resume that highlights your skills and qualifications and career objectives in the right format, and ensure it's up-to-date and tailored to the type of roles that you are seeking. When you get additional responsibilities within your current position, please be sure to add it onto your resume as well, so people understand that you've gone into a role and you have progressed within a particular position. The next one is be very clear about your goals when you're communicating to a consultant. One of the things for me that sets a candidate apart as a recruiter is if the candidate has excellent focus. So clearly communicate your career aspirations, what you would like to do, preferred industries, and that sort of stuff to your recruiter. The more specific you are, the better they can match you with suitable opportunities. That definitely sets candidates apart for me. A lot of candidates, when they are quite new to the job market, or when they enter the job market after being in a role for a long time, they try to generalize and appeal to most positions, thinking that will give them the best chance. But for every position that's on the market right now, there is a niche candidate that specializes within that space, and they have the highest possibility to be successful for that position. So tunnel vision in this sense can be your friend. And when you are engaging with a recruitment consultant, you have the chance to leverage their expertise. Recruitment consultants sometimes are similar to stockbrokers in the fact that they trade within the job market every single day of the week. They have insights into the job market, salary trends, what you should be getting paid, what your industry is doing at the moment. So seek advice on market conditions and make yourself a more attractive candidate in the job market. The next one is, for me, the highest value service you can get from a recruitment agency is helping you prepare for interviews. If you were to be represented by a consultant through an agency, more often than not, the recruiter will prepare you for that particular interview. This includes inside scoop on hiring managers, who's going to be conducting the interview, what they like, what kind of questions they usually ask, even sometimes the layout of the office to mitigate any nervousness during an interview and put you, a candidate, in a very comfortable space. Feel like you know the space and the people already. Definitely gives you an edge over candidates who are walking into an interview with no information about who's going to be talking to them or what the office looks like. If there was one thing you were going to gain in terms of value from your recruiter, sit down with them for a scheduled prep session. Another thing recruitment agencies are very useful is when it comes to negotiating a salary package for you. More often than not, since they have a very good understanding of the job market and the industry market, the situation of the company that you are interviewing with, they understand how much value is there in the deal, and they're more often than not able to negotiate a better deal for you and get you a fair offer. It also takes the awkward situation of you having to talk money during an interview and just leaves you out of that process. So leave it with the recruiter. That's their job. Once you've done the interview, they'll do the negotiating for you. And if they are really good at what they do, more often than not, they will be able to facilitate that acceptance and get a better offer for you. At the end of the day, recruitment agencies should never be your only way of finding a job. When you are a job seeker, I recommend you to be active in the job market, network and connect with potential hiring managers, and do your own job search. Looking for a job is a full-time job in itself. Recruitment agencies are just an extra pair of eyes looking for work for you, so you have an added advantage, an extra option. Considering the number of perks that you get from engaging and building a good relationship with a recruiter, certainly is a great idea to have an expert looking for work for you while you're doing your own search. Find a recruiter that suits your style and specializes in what you're good at, and get in touch with them today. If you specialize within sales, if you are someone who's passionate about property, who wants to work within that industry, get in touch with me on the information on the screen. Give me a call or connect with me on LinkedIn. And thank you for joining today.
Fantastic. Some excellent advice there, Manish. And again, I think you did really well. I'd be too tempted to be biased and tell them all just to come to Frog and you don't need anyone else. But we are always really transparent. And if we're not in the best position to help, we will point you in the right direction. Okay, so we throughout the webinar, we've been receiving some comments here from you all regarding the subjects we've covered, as well as some added extras. So now we'll go through, myself and the rest of the team here of recruitment experts. We'll go through and answer some of the burning questions that you have for us. All right, so okay, so I think the first one's going to be for me, the dead giveaway, is that it says hello, Shannon. So I'll take this one. So Kumi Patel says, you said the market is tight. Wouldn't that mean that it's more difficult to find a job and as more people are looking and less jobs going? Yes, you got me there. When I said it was a tight market, I was looking from the employer's perspective. When you're right, this is all about job seekers and employees today, so I should have flipped that around. But in saying that, it is about to, the job market is about to get tighter as well, as we're starting to see. So we're seeing that balance out. But yeah, if anything, I would say the candidates or job seekers are still slightly in that position of power, but we're starting to see the jobs start to dry up a little bit as well. Okay, so we have Ben H says, do you think reaching out and staying or trying to talk to a hiring manager straight away on LinkedIn might be jumping the gun a little bit, and whether or not it'd be better to wait until further in the process? Shavneil, what advice do you have there?
Hey Ben, thanks for the great question. I think in my experience, with reaching out to a hiring manager, it does set you apart from the rest of the candidates that are applying for that role. But it also kind of gives, if you do it in a way that is more of like I'm looking forward to this opportunity, things like that, it does set you apart in terms of the job process. And who knows, it might also make your application on top of the pile or something like that as well. So it is just dependent on how you approach the hiring manager on LinkedIn rather than what step of the process in the market at the moment as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important, and from experience as well, if you are going to make that approach, you do need to make it sure that you have some questions or something to add that it's relevant. So I'm sure the other hiring managers out there and the recruiters, sometimes you can get calls where they're just asking if you've received your application, but there's nothing more from them. So it can seem that yeah, they're approaching you for the sake of it and it doesn't add much value. So make sure that there's a reason for the call or the approach, and that it's going to show you in the best light and to make you stand apart from the others. We have so Simone was taking the opportunity to get in touch with Shavneil, who had placed them a while ago. So on the lookout. I love that. Get straight in there. Take advantage of that. So perhaps Shavneil will be able to connect with Simone later down the track. Now we always get this question around pictures on CV. And I think there's always varying answers as well. So let's go. That one's for you, Scott. Pictures on CVs, yay or nay?
For me, it's a no. It's nothing personal. I just don't need to see what you look like from your CV when I'm a hiring manager. I know that Manish has got a completely different view on this. But as a recruiter, I will get to find out what you look like. A, when you come into register or you come on a Teams meeting with me, and B, once I've had a look at you on LinkedIn to make sure it is who you say you are and your qualifications sort of match. So for me, I don't think you need a picture on a CV, no.
Do you have a rebuttal, Manish?
I do understand that most recruiters would probably disagree with me on this, but I've always had my photo on my CV, and it's got me into working at some wonderful places. So, in my opinion, I would my advice, if you want to have your photo on your CV, would just take a nice professional photo, with good smile, positive energy, and yeah, makes you feel like you know the person when you look at the CV. But that's just me.
We're all entitled to our opinions. Just so you know, we didn't hire you for your look, Manish. Other
I know.
qualities. Yeah, I think some of the key things is, again, it's about whether or not that's going to give you an advantage. And also, sometimes you want to avoid the opposite. So you don't want to introduce anything that may open you up to unconscious bias as well from whoever's seeing the resume. So as a general, I'm in Scott's camp and would say I'd avoid that unless it's something specific to a role. We need that. But we don't have too many modelling roles here at Frog Recruitment, so most of the time you're probably safe without. Okay, who do we have next? Madhavan, I'm new to New Zealand, wants to know whether the job market for the IT sector will be good after the Christmas holidays. Shavnil, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure thing. So in terms of the IT sector, it is still growing at the moment. There is a lot of different changes that we have seen in the market. At the start of this year, with all the tech layoffs and restructuring, the Auckland market wasn't safe from that, unfortunately. So there has been changes around. And as we come into the new year with changes in politics as well, so it will I'm hoping so. It does create a bit of new opportunities as there would be a need for different projects coming up, as well as for a need for different skill sets in the market to help different businesses to grow in the industries and learn a bit more about the market. I have definitely seen in my experience at the moment a few different new IT roles in the market that you probably wouldn't have seen in the Auckland market. So I think it is growing a little bit. It's just going to take some time for that to come through.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And particularly that time after the Christmas period as well. And of course, we've got an election coming up very soon. So there's a lot of businesses who will have put projects temporarily on hold while they wait to see what happens in the election and how the dust settles. So yeah, we'd look to see there's still lots of things that need to happen. And of course, there's a huge rise in technology and the need for that. So likely to see some more demand pick up in the new year. Shavnil, while you're on a roll, Praveen was also asking about the demand for finance professionals, particularly analysts, management accountants, etc.
Yeah. So yes, actually, I have been recruiting a few different roles in that space at the moment as well. One thing I have noticed is a lot of business making that shift into that analytics space with business analysts as well as financial analysts at the moment, just because we've seen in the market, we've actually seen a lot of sort of analytics and data helping to add value to the business in terms of seeing where the profit is, where the loss is, but also creating budgets and seeing where maybe in past projects they had a bit of a not such a great turn out, or like what their projected value was. And so, yes, we are seeing a bit of difference in terms of analytics roles in the market. There is a bit more of a demand, and especially with different key skill sets in the market. For example, quite a few roles that I have reached out to clients for, I've seen requiring Power BI experience in Excel, but also some financial instruments as well, such as like SAP, FICO, and so on. So yes, this it is kind of growing at the moment in that area as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Shavnil. This one's for you, Scott. So Shay asks, working with the recruitment agency, if I started out in a contract job, how difficult is it to change over to a full-time job or a permanent job? And do I need to start the process over?
Not really, no. So occasionally we get contractors that will go into a job on a contract, say it's a 3 or 6 month contract. They do such a good job there that the actual client looks and says, look, actually, I'm wondering, Shay, for example, Shay has done such a wonderful job for us. We'd looking to take them on full time. So it would be a case of having a conversation with Shay to find out what they're looking to get out of it. Obviously, they will go from being a contractor to a full-time employee, so they won't be then sorting out their own tax and expenses in that way. So just educating them on the different processes that they're going to have to go through that will be slightly different from when they were contracting. So there's not a great deal that you will need to go over. Obviously, it will reflect on your CV that you've done contracting. If you've done it for a long enough time, say 5-6 years, no one's going to hold that against you if you're applying for a full-time role.
Beautiful. Thank you, Scott. And the last one here is a personal request for Manish. You've obviously impressed, and Ghislaine would love to have a face-to-face interview with you. So the best way is to get in touch with Manish, send them through an email and your resume and details. And of course, if you want to reach out to any of the team, we'd love to hear from you as well. Now that brings us to the end of the Q&A session. Again, if there's something that we've missed or a question that you'd love to ask us, feel free to get in touch. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you've have all been able to take away some insights into the Auckland job market and some valuable tips to take that next step in your career. As I said, we love talking to people and are here to help. So please feel free to get in touch with me or any of the Frog team to chat about your next career move. Thanks so much for joining us. Ngā mihi nui.